The Prime Minister is going the 24th of September to the United Nations meeting on climate change, and it's important for him to come with a lot of credibility. In December 2005, I had credibility because I had a plan, a credible plan. Now we have an even better plan, improved since then. It is the one you have in the Clean Air and Climate Change Act. At least it's part of what we need to do. And if he comes with that, you will have a lot of credibility to help the world to figure out what to do beyond the first phase of Kyoto, that is, beyond 2012. We ask the government to include the Clean Air and Climate Change Act in the list of the bills that will carry it forward in the next parliament. And we cannot imagine that they will not do that. It would be an act of civility when all the parties of the opposition, because I suppose that the Bloc and the NDP will ask for the same, are asking for that, and when it's clear that it's the preference of the Canadian people. So this is my request to the Prime Minister.
Monsieur Dion, Monsieur Duceppe said earlier today that if the throne speech doesn't include the pullout in 2009 of Afghanistan, that he threatened to bring down the government. What's your view of that?
Not here to make threats. Why Mr. Duceppe wants to wait until October? We are requesting the Prime Minister to notify to NATO, the government of Afghanistan, that the combat mission in Kandahar will end in February 2009. We are asking that since last February. The speech I delivered at the Université de Montréal, my first major speech as the leader of the opposition and leader of the Liberal Party. We didn't change our view since then. We are asking that every week to the Prime Minister to do that. We had a motion last April that the Bloc, to their credit, supported, but not the NDP. It must be notified now, not to wait until October. And when the Prime Minister said we need first to have a debate in the House, the debate may happen at the end of the winter or next spring, it's far too late. Why to wait? We need to be good partners with our NATO allies and the government of Afghanistan. We need to give them the time for the replacement. It should be said now.
You've been talking about Afghanistan, the fact that they're not doing what you want them to do, notifying NATO and so on. You're talking about the environment. You talk about how there's consensus on C30. The committee's all in favor of that approach. So instead of just saying over and over again they're not doing enough, like, why don't you band together with the opposition parties and bring down the minority government?
I'm not here to make threats about that, but everybody knows that there is a possibility one day of a confidence motion or a confidence vote that the government may be defeated. But I'm not saying today that is what I want.
You spoke about the possibility of a confidence motion. What might you include in a confidence motion, and when might you move one? Are you ruling one out for this all?
We will never go there if the Prime Minister accepts the view that this plan is full of weaknesses, criticized by the research institutes that look at it, will not allow Canada to honor its international commitments, will not allow our economy to make the shift toward the sustainable economy that we need to do. And to the contrary, what the parties of the opposition are suggesting, the climate change plan that we have now, will put Canada in the good direction in order to be a good partner within the Kyoto Protocol and beyond.
You say you won't go there, you won't have a confidence motion if the Prime Minister recognizes that this legislation is completely flawed. But if the Prime Minister doesn't recognize that it's completely flawed, then does that mean that you will?
The next step, though...
If I could just finish, either do a non-confidence motion or perhaps amend the speech from the throne, as Mr. Layton was suggesting, to insist on either something on Afghanistan or on environment.
Before to discuss the content of the speech of the throne, we'll look at it when we'll see it. But there is a step before, and the step is which bill will survive if they prorogate. If they don't, we're okay. If they do, we are asking through this letter to the Prime Minister to include C30 among the bills that will be put forward for the next Parliament. If they prorogue and they go toward the throne speech, everybody knows, that the risk of an election is going up.
If the government does accept what you're suggesting, that they then allow the opposition parties to set policy on crucial issues where they don't agree, in what sense constitutionally would the Conservatives really remain the government?
But they need to work with the Parliament, yes, especially for legislative issues. And I think it's common practice that when there is a request for the opposition to keep alive a bill when you prorogue, the government must accept our request. I cannot imagine that Mr. Harper will say, I will not include this bill in the bill that will be put forward, despite the fact that the leader of the opposition is asking me to do so. So I expect that he will say yes to my request, and that the Clean Air and Climate Change Act will stay alive after prorogation.
But it goes a bit beyond procedure, because you're talking about climate change, whose importance you've stressed, and national defense also. Is it not necessary, if you want to set policy on individual matters of key importance, that you go to the Governor General and say, we will take responsibility for the overall coherence of governing, dismiss the Prime Minister, and let us form a ministry? It's not right to have the fun of making policy without the duty of having it all fit together.
The government pretends that their so-called plan is a good plan. I give all the facts, all the reasons why it is not. And I'm putting that on paper with numbers. And I say to the government, although your plan is very weak, what the parties of the oppositions agreed on is very strong. So join the consensus.
You're saying if it isn't this plan, and if it isn't pull out of Afghanistan by 2009, then you're not in.
If C30, that means the Clean Air and Climate Change Act, go forward, nothing will stop the government to suggest amendments to this bill. And the parties of the opposition, the official opposition, will look at the amendments the government is proposing. If they kill the bill, then we have a problem.
Without going back to the point of the government notifying NATO, which you've made repeatedly, what else has to happen? Mr. Harper said he wants a consensus from Parliament if the mission's going to continue in any other way. Do you know whether you'll be bringing forward a proposal to him for the kind of mission?
We know for sure that we don't want any more combat mission. That means when you proactively search the engagement with the enemy. But training, development, humanitarian initiatives, yes, certainly we are willing to look at what the government has in mind and to see if we may build a consensus on that. But no combat mission anymore.
In terms of a process, though, do you expect to meet with Mr. Harper? Have you had any contact from his office about how to move forward in the fall?
No, not yet.
Will you make a proposal?
Not yet. I guess that the House leaders will have to work on that, and I'm always available for the Prime Minister.